This is a 2021 Acura TLX Type S, a turbocharged V6 sports sedan with all-wheel drive traction, available summer tire rubber, and legit handling prowess. And it marks the return of a properly sporty sedan from the Japanese brand. Think of it like a Honda Civic Type R for grown-ups. My name is Rob Warner, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and I am a grown-up. After all, I am an adult. The Acura TLX Type S sits at the top of several TLX trims, above the base, technology, A-Spec, and advanced models. That means you get Milano leather seats with synthetic suede inserts, standard all-wheel drive, and an additional 1 liter of displacement and 83 horsepower. That's right. Powering the TLX Type S is a turbocharged 3-liter V6 producing a peak 355 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. That power then goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission and onto all 4 wheels. The base price for the 2021 Acura TLX Type S starts at $53,845, and getting the performance wheel and tire package like my test car ups the price to $54,645. For those that are interested, I included detailed specifications including dimensions, fuel economy, and options in the description. All right, let's take a look around the car. And here is the 2021 Acura TLX Type S. This particular one is painted in Tiger Eye Pearl, and if you want to know that you're looking at a Type S and not just a standard TLX, there are a few visual cues to look for. Let's start with the most obvious, and that would be the several Type S logos on the car. First, starting on the front grille, front fender, and in the back as well. But also, the shape of the grille itself is unique. Acura calls this a diamond pentagon grille, and not only does it have a unique shape to it, it also allows 10% more airflow into the engine compartment. So that's nice for cooling, power, etc. You also have this new front splitter right here, which looks nice and contrasts that Tiger Eye Pearl paint really nicely. And you get more of these similar patterns down here, and there's some intercoolers behind that, which is cool. Quickly moving to the back, you have the not so subtle, but I think attractive looking black rear spoiler, as well as a diffuser down low, and these lovely quad exhaust tips, which I think look really nice. I love this thick metal that they used for the quad exhaust tips. Also, what stands out on the TLS Type S are these 20-inch aluminum wheels. Now these are 20 inches in diameter, 9 inches thick, 9 inches wide, excuse me. And this particular car has the performance wheel and tire package. So that you can tell because it has this Y pattern shape in the wheel and Pirelli P0 summer tires as opposed to all-season tires. And that not only does it give you more grip from the tire, and actually this is a lighter wheel, so overall this takes 21 pounds off the car. So the TLX Type S weighs 4,221 pounds, but if you get the performance wheel and tire package, it weighs 4,200 pounds dead even. Also, on all TLX Type S's, you get bigger front brakes, and you get 4 piston Brembo front calipers, and they clamp onto 14.3-inch brake discs. The standard TLX comes with 13-inch brake discs, front and back. The TLX Type S gets 14.3 and the Brembo calipers in front. They're Brembo brakes overall, but the calipers say Brembo, right? So, generally speaking, you still have the same basic TLX shape. They didn't fundamentally change the shape of the car, but it's a good-looking shape. You know, we kind of have that fastback roof line coming down here, which carries and meets that rear spoiler nicely. You've got these nice haunches and the fender flares right here. You've got this nice character line that runs across, and it's just, you know, a good sporty sports sedan kind of look. but there's actually some structural changes as well. The TLX Type S is 13% stiffer than the standard TLX. There's a couple of key things I want to show you. Okay, there's two main things I want to show you, one in front, one in back. We'll start in front. Basically, what both of these changes do is help strengthen the lower part and the upper part of the frame to kind of give you more of a box structure. And what that means here in front is a beefy front strut tower brace, although this is double control arms, not struts, but a shock tower brace, we'll say. So here is the arm here, and you got 2 points here, up front and in back, and then these connect and run along that plastic piece of cowl and then split apart and reconnect here on that side. And then in back, Acura added something called an A brace, and they called it an A brace. By the way, there's my super slick lighting, because it is kind of sort of shaped like an A. So you see that structure up, connect, back down. So more of a tie-in between the upper part of the structure and the lower part of the structure. And again, we're right around the shock towers, but this time on the rear axle. So these two things together provide the lion's share of increased stiffness for the TLX Type S. And if you'll think about it, they're kind of placed in critical areas right around where the suspension is. If you want to improve the performance capabilities of a car, you always have to start with structure. Anyway, let's take a look inside. We'll go from back to front, and as I open this door, briefly tell you that that A brace you saw in the trunk, there was 13.5 cubic feet of trunk space back there. Anyway, the back seat is a little bit on the cramped side. It's not bad, but the seat back is a little bit low, and my knees are bent just a little bit more than 90 degrees, and I have a little bit of knee room, a couple inches of knee room, but not much. And I do have, I'd say, about an inch of headroom, and I am 5'11". But it's a comfortable bench, and I've got some contours to help hold me in place. And if I want, I can fold this down and get cup holders and all those types of things. And I don't have independent climate control back here, but hey, I do have vents. Anyway, let's move on to the front. Of course, more Type S reminders on the kick plate, on the floor mats. Looking at the door, you have pretty standard controls here. Trunk release, seat memory, power windows, power locks, mirror adjust, those types of things. But there are also more cues that this is a Type S TLX. First of all, the steering wheel also says Type S, and it is a flat bottom steering wheel with lots of buttons on it. You also have Milano leather seats with a synthetic suede insert right here. And more importantly for me is you have these nice big bolsters up here and reasonable lower bolsters as well. And you have good seat adjustments down there. Oh, and if you need another reminder, it also says Type S embossed into the headrest here. This car also has shift paddles there and there for the 10-speed automatic transmission. Getting inside, you do have a screen in the center, but real gauges on either side, which I guess I'm showing my age, but I actually prefer it that way. But of course you do get a center console screen. It is 10.2 inches, and it uses the newer, introduced on the 2019 Acura RDX, True Touchpad Surface. So this has what is called absolute positioning. The top right corner of this touchpad is always the top right corner of the screen. And it takes a little bit of getting used to because it's not like most other cars these days, but after you do, it's totally fine. You also have Qi wireless charging, cup holders. Open this up, you have lots of options for charging and plugging in auxiliary music and all that kind of stuff. You also have sunglass holder, moonroof, and all these kinds of things. Up here, cooled seats, heated seats, and you can have them function automatically. Yes, it is dual zone automatic climate control, that's right there. But I want to start the car and show you a little bit about the drive modes, because these are fun. Okay, if you look right there, you can see down here that it says comfort. there are 5 drive modes in the Acura TLX Type S. Comfort, Normal, Sport, Sport Plus, but I can also press this button and that pops up Individual. And now the screen pops up with the adjustments I can make here. And you can see I have engine, steering, suspension, whether the auto stop start works or not, and also the lighting. So, and you can see how I have it set up. Those are my preferred individual settings. But there's something else I want you to see. So if I am in comfort mode or normal mode, the engine idles at 680 RPM, okay? But if I move to sport, engine idle increases to 800 RPM, okay? And then if I go to Sport Plus, engine idle increases to 1000 RPM. And the purpose of that is so that even the engine can be a little bit faster reacting, because in Sport Plus mode, obviously you get stiffer shocks and less steering assist, heavier steering, but you also get 30% faster transmission shifts and this faster idle for better launches. You have real changes in the way this car feels, the character of the car. Talking about this stuff just makes me excited to show you what it's like to drive, so let's go for a drive. Hi everybody, and I have to tell you, it is properly exciting to be back in a performance Acura sports sedan. Not just looks, but actual powertrain and chassis and even tire to back that up. What does that mean? Well, we have to start with the powertrain, of course. When Acura came out with the new TLX generation last year, they pulled out the V6 and put in a turbocharged 2-liter engine only, and as a totally reasonable powertrain for the car. 272 horsepower, 280 pound-feet of torque, and it's tied to a 10-speed automatic transmission. And the TLX is, in fact, a front-wheel drive-based sports sedan. Now, the Type S swaps out the 2-liter for that 3-liter that I mentioned. You get 83 more horsepower, 355 horsepower, 354 pound-feet of torque, and you still get the 10-speed automatic transmission, but it's been heavily modified, and you get all-wheel drive as standard. And this is Acura's super handling all-wheel drive, and I'll talk about what that means just a little bit more in a minute. So let's start with the engine. It is a twin-scroll, single turbocharged 3-liter V6. Now, this is a 60-degree banked V6, not 90-degree, which is more typical. And it is a very strong engine too. It has 6-bolt main caps, forged crankshaft, and forged connecting rods. So that really shows you that it is easily going to withstand the 15.1 pounds of boost, pounds per square inch of boost that the turbo can throw at it. And because you have a turbocharger providing all the air to the engine, you have direct fuel injection to provide the fuel. In addition to all that core strength, Acura threw a lot of interesting technology at this engine. So first of all, this can shut down some of the cylinders to save fuel economy. So sometimes you're running on 6 cylinders, sometimes only 3. But Acura installed a special engine mount with sensors attached to it that is a dynamic engine mount and can absorb vibration. So the way the system works is, if the sensors sense any change in vibration between running on 6 cylinders versus running on 3, it changes the stiffness of the engine mount to compensate and absorb any difference in vibration. That really makes shutting down between 3 and 6 cylinders all but imperceptible, at least in terms of feel. So the added bonus to that is that those active engine mounts can also absorb some chassis vibrations as well. You also have an active exhaust that has a bypass valve to give you 2 different exhaust loudnesses when you need that, and that is actually tied to the drive modes. So if you're in the Sport or Sport Plus drive modes, you're going to get the loud exhaust most all the time, but if you're in normal, not as much, and when you're in comfort, the exhaust more or less stays quiet. Moving on from the engine, like I said, it is the same 10-speed transmission that you get in the standard TLX, same gear ratios and all that. However, it's actually not the same 10-speed transmission. Acura swapped out the torque converter to start. It has different clutch packs, and even the internals themselves are different and stronger to help withstand 83 more horsepower and 75 more pound-feet of torque. And the Type S TLX gets the super handling all-wheel drive system as standard. That is the 4th generation of that system. And what it does is, yes, it is a front-wheel drive based powertrain layout, but you get up to 70% of the torque going to the rear with super handling all-wheel drive. And from there, up to 100% of that 70% can go to either the left or the right wheel. On top of that, the system can actually overdrive the rear axle by up to 2.9%. Of course, put all those things together and this car is not slow, and I am slowing down because I want to show you. Switching to Sport Plus driving mode, a little bit of brake torque, and off we go. Oh man. 0 to 60 Acura claims in right around 5 seconds, and that feels entirely believable to me. And in that Sport Plus mode, man, those shifts just go bang, bang, bang right off. And that louder exhaust too, you could definitely hear that difference. It was definitely raspier, a little louder, a little bit more raucous, and I appreciate that. It is worth noting that Acura does employ some active sound control, so the stereo does play a role in that. And it also does kind of bring up one kind of sad point, which is all that engine technology I just brought up, all the cool things they did, and then the inherent strength of the engine itself. It's kind of a bummer that it only revs to 6,200 RPM. Now, that's not out of the range of what a typical turbo motor can do these days, and it's not like you're hurting for power or torque. The torque band is a nice and wide ratio between 1,400 and 5,000 RPM, and power peak comes at 5,500 RPM. And because you have a 10-speed automatic transmission, you're always in a good rev range to make power and or torque. But, you know, just the pure auditory pleasure of an engine, it just gets better as those engine revs get higher. And 6,200 RPM is definitely on the low side, even for a turbo motor. But, of course, engines are worthless unless they are tied to a good chassis, and this 3-liter turbocharged engine definitely is tied to a good chassis. First of all, you got the same fundamentals as the standard TLX, which is a double wishbone front suspension and multi-link rear suspension, good bones there. And from there, the Type S has 40% stiffer front springs, the same back springs, but also stiffer front and rear anti-roll bars. It's an adaptive suspension system, which is also adjustable with the drive modes, and that is also tuned to be more aggressive in general compared to the standard TLX, especially in Sport Plus mode, where this thing properly stiffens up. And that inherently stronger body, you know, those parts I show you, the A-brace in back, the extra shock tower brace in front, those things really add up to give you a stiff structure to work with. As I mentioned before, the TLX powertrain layout is a transversely mounted engine, which means the engine is side to side in front as opposed to going fore aft, which makes it easier to kind of tuck the engine farther back into the chassis. And that means that the nose of the car is a little bit heavier. And on the standard TLX, even with the super handling all-wheel drive system, you can ultimately feel that it is a front-wheel drive based car. Not so in the Type S. This is a great handling car. Great handling always starts with a good front end, good initial turn-in response, athletic responses to transitions, and the TLX delivers on all those fronts. You have really good steering feel, excellent steering weight, steering assist is just right. It's fast, it's precise, and even easy to adjust the attitude of the car in the middle of a corner. And then you have fantastic body control. And with the performance rubber, you have pretty darn decent amount of grip too. All that adds up to just a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Because this car communicates its attitude and where its limits are so well, It's so easy to reach them and dance around them. And because of that overdriving rear axle, like I mentioned earlier, you have a car that ultimately does understeer, but not much. Chassis balance is much, much better than the weight distribution would suggest. And yet, this car will calm right down again. You can put it in comfort mode, and the adaptive shocks settle down quite a bit. They're not as soft as the standard TLX, but it's totally an acceptable and supple ride, and you just have a nice and luxurious sedan when you need it. On top of that, you have all the boxes you need to tick as an adult, airbags and the ACE body structure and all this kind of stuff. In addition to that, you have what they call Acura Watch, which is adaptive cruise control, automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist, lane change warning, all those types of things, the driver assistance kind of stuff. And that's why I consider this a grown-up Civic Type R. This is a hard-edge, high-performance version of a mainstream category car. And yet, unlike a Civic Type R, this thing really can settle down and still behave like a more pedestrian, stately sedan when you need it to. The TLX Type S allows you to be an adult, and then you can go out and have fun and be yourself when you get the chance. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I'd really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Those things really help me out. Okay, goodbye.